Hi students, once again we have to meet to discuss about the various biomes. So far I have seen the different kinds of major biomes of Earth. Now we have to proceed further about the major biome of Earth. One of the major biomes of Earth, the forest biome. Now forest is a broad term used to describe areas where there are large number of trees are present. It includes an assemblage of complex biotic communities of different kinds. Complex assemblage of different kinds of what is called kinds of plants and animals like that one. And here there are two major forest biomes. One the tropical forest, another one temperate forest. I want to compare the characteristics of these two forests, tropical forest and temperate forest. Now first one regarding the location. The tropical forest. It is found near the equator, that's hence the name tropical forest, between latitudes 23.5 degree at north and 23.5 degree at south, near the what we have near the tropics, near the equator. The temperate forest occurs in eastern North America, northeastern Asia, and western and central Europe. This is the location for the temperate forest. And regarding the climate, we have different types of climate found in these two areas. Now, climate. We have distinct seasons are available in the case of tropical forest. We have only two distinct seasons, namely rainy and dry seasons. But there is no winter. Winter is normally absent, it is negligible in the case of tropical forest. Now let's compare this character with that of temperate forest. Now here in the case of climate, well-defined season, as in the case of here, moderate climate, not just actually high temperature, etc. So growing season of 140 to 200 days during 4 to 6 frost-free months without any what is called the snowfall. Distinct winter is present, here it is absent. Winter is absent, here winter is present. That is one of the differences between these two. That's why I am comparing these two. Now regarding the temperature, temperature also vary from tropical forest to temperate forest. Average annual temperature is ranging from 20 degrees Celsius and 25 degrees Celsius. But in the case of temperate forest, the annual temperature varies from minus 30 degrees Celsius to 30 degrees Celsius. That is the difference also. Now precipitation, the rainfall. About the rainfall in these two areas. So evenly distributed rainfall in both the forests. Evenly distributed rainfall throughout the year. In both, that is temperate forest and tropical forest, we have precipitation evenly distributed throughout the year. There is no much difference. But the annual rainfall is different. Now the annual rainfall in the case of tropical forest is exceeding 2000 millimeter. But in the case of temperate forest, the annual rainfall is about 752, that is 1500 millimeter. 750 to 1500 millimeter. So this is about, we have differences between these two, the comparison between these two regarding the location, climate, temperature, precipitation. We have to proceed further about the soil, the flora, fauna, etc. Let's compare the soil of the two forests, tropical and temperate forests. Soil, nature of the soil, it is fertile in tropical forest, enriched with decaying litter, that's a humus, rich in what is called humus, that is what is called the organic matter. Litter is nothing but here referring to the organic waste matter. Then about the soil, nutrient poor and highly acidic in nature. The decomposition is rapid, occurring rapidly in the case of the leaves, the fallen actually leaves and other plant parts. Soil is subjected to heavy leaching, just reaching and penetrating through, broken down, etc. Now tree canopy. Canopy is nothing but the nature of the covering of the what is called the forest. So the canopy, the nature of the tree, what we have, the different trees together form a canopy, a dense one. It is multi-layered, continuous, allowing only little light penetration. Because it is normally dense in nature, not allowing more light to enter into it. In the case of temperate forest, it is moderately dense, not much dense, moderately dense, allows light to penetrate. So light penetration is there. Here just only little light penetration. There we have allowing the light to penetrate. As a result, we have well developed and richly diversified understory vegetation in different layers. That's called story. And stratification of animals, different types of animals. Stratification referring to what we get the arrangement of different layers in soil, and also in terms of animals, different groups of animals. Then fauna. Now here you can see the greatest diversity of fauna, the animals. The common animals found in tropical forests are, that is, birds, bats, small mammals and insects of different variety. Then fauna here, the squirrels, skunks. So it is a mammal looking like what is called a fox but climbing on the trees. Birds, deer, bobcat, mountain lion, black bear, timber wolf and black bear, timber wolf, etc. So that's about what we got the fauna. We have to know one more character regarding the flora or vegetation of the two different forests. What are the different kinds of plants living there in tropical and temperate forests. Now the nature of flora and vegetation in both the forests. Now in the case of tropical forests, we have highly diversified what we have vegetation. 1 square kilometer contains about as many as 100 different trees. So 1 square kilometer contains as many as 100 different trees. Now trees are 25 to 35 meter tall with buttressed trunks and shallow roots. Shallow means not so deep, buttressed, you know that one, the bulged portion of the base of the stem. Now mostly evergreen. So it's an evergreen forest, a tropical forest with large dark green leaves, flattened leaves. For example, the orchids, then bromeliads, vines. Lions means you know that one, so vines nothing but the climbing plants. If the climbing plants are woody in nature in its stem, then they are called as lions, woody stemmed climbers. Then ferns, the pteridophyte, the mosses, the bryophytes and the palms, the trees. Then, in the case of flora of temperate forest, in per square kilometer we have only least number of trees. Least number of trees, that's about 3 to 4 trees species per kilometer. Per square kilometer, not just a kilometer, per square kilometer. Here you see that 100 different trees. And there you have 3 to 4 tree species per square kilometer. Now the trees have broad leaves that are lost annually every year. Broad leaves, actually in the case of temperate forests, the oak trees, they have large leaves. They have fallen annually. Then the plants are oak, beech, maple, hemlock, hickory, basswood, cottonwood, willow, elm and spring flowering herbs. That's about the vegetation with reference to these two, what we have the forest. A fact related to the tropical forest is more than half of Earth's tropical forests have already been destroyed. So we have only 50% of that forest which existed in the past. And regarding the fact of temperate forests, only scattered remnants of original temperate forests remain today, scattered. So the original forest disappeared, we have scattered remnants, the remains of the original forest, that is a temperate forest, now present. That's about the fact of temperate forest. So with that I concluded about the forest biome. I have to go for a few facts about what we call the desert, and then I'll pass on to we have adaptations or animals' responses to abiotic conditions. Now we have to know some facts about biomes. Historically speaking, biomes are known to move as climatic changes. It's an example of Sahara Desert. Once upon a time, it had lush green plants and we had rivers flowing through it. And because of the change in climate, it becomes dry. Now it becomes the planet's largest desert without what we have proper rainfall, and also we have sandy winds and we have xerophytic plants. Now Atacama Desert or Kyle and inland Sahara, these two places have lowest rainfall with less than 15 millimeter per year. Lowest rainfall in these two deserts, that is Atacama Desert or of Kyle and then inland Sahara. And we have what we have Highest rainfall almost 280 millimeter per year in the case of that is American deserts. So in American deserts the rainfall is almost higher, a maximum of almost 280 millimeter per year. So these are some of the facts related to what we have the biomes. Now the next part of the lesson responds to abiotic factors by the organisms. Each and every organism, actually a living one, respond to its own environment. Now there are various ways by which organisms respond to abiotic conditions. Different methods are adapted by the organisms to respond to abiotic conditions. Some organisms can maintain constant physiological or morphological conditions or undertake, for example, some steps to overcome environmental conditions, which in itself is a response. Now, what are the types of responses observed? We have only a few. Number one, regulation. The regulators, the organisms. Now, the one response is regulate the body to the changing environmental conditions. Now, some organisms are able to maintain homeostasis. That is nothing but the constant equilibrium is otherwise called homeostasis. By physiological methods, which ensures constant body temperature, ionic balance and also osmotic balance. Simply we can say those organisms which can regulate their body temperature and keeping their body temperature, osmotic balance, ionic balance in constant equilibrium. Such organisms are called regulators. And we have the birds and mammals have a constant body temperature and few lower vertebrates also and some invertebrates. We have also partial regulators. The partial regulators can maintain their body temperature up to certain level. Suppose that the temperature is going on increasing. So they normally maintain a constant temperature. So some organisms can able to regulate their body temperature up to a certain level. If the temperature is going on increasing, they maintain a constant temperature. Such organisms are called, you see that one, partial regulators. For example, the shrew, the mammal, and also the squirrels. These two are examples for partial regulators among the mammals. So, actually, partial regulators. Shrew and the squirrel, they are considered as partial regulators because they maintain a temperature only after certain just a temperature level. Now that's about what are the regulators. The next one, the second response, we have to go for conformers. Conform or conformers. Conform another response and the organisms are called conformers. Those organisms which cannot maintain their constant body temperature and changing their temperature, that's what's called the ambient temperature. Ambient temperature means changing temperature. In actually changing the body temperature in response to the temperature of the surrounding, the ambient temperature of the surrounding. And also they change their osmotic concentration of their body fluids in accordance with a change in the osmotic concentration of the surrounding ambient water. Ambient water means a water which is changing its osmotic concentration. So that's about what we have conformers. We have, for example, the fishes. They can change their osmotic concentration, they can change their body temperature according to the temperature of the surrounding, according to the osmotic concentration of the water available outside. That is called ambient water. Ambient water means water with changing osmotic concentration or temperature. We'll see now. Now the second response to abiotic factors or conditions, what we have conform. Most animals cannot maintain their internal environment, either the temperature or the osmotic concentration. That means animals without constant body temperature or osmotic concentration. Their body temperature changes with the ambient temperature. Ambient means outer external temperature. That is a living medium where the animal lives. For example, fishes. So they change the body temperature according to the temperature of the surrounding. Suppose the surrounding temperature is 40 degrees Celsius. I am taking example only. In the fish also we have 40 degrees Celsius in the body fluids. So the aquatic animals like fishes, not only the body temperature changes but also the osmotic concentration of body fluids changes according to the ambient osmotic concentration of water. Ambient water osmotic concentration. Ambient water means actually changing water, that's outer medium. Okay, so concentration of body fluids changes with that of the ambient water osmotic concentration. So both body temperature and osmotic concentration of the body fluids change in accordance with the outer ambient water medium. Now such animals which can change their body temperature and osmotic concentration are called just the conformers. They are called conformers. Now in case of extreme conditions, organisms inhabiting these areas are dislocating or relocating. Relocating means relocating to other places where the conditions are favorable, as in the case of migration. That is about conformers or the just actually response conform. Now this is a graph showing organisms' response to environmental stresses. I already described about what we call the regulators, maintaining a constant internal environment, and conformers cannot maintain constant internal environment, and now the partial regulators. It is not there in the book. So partial regulators can regulate their body temperature to a certain level of ambient, what is called temperature. Ambient means outside changing temperature. But if the temperature goes on, they maintain a steady temperature. Now here the temperature is increasing up to a certain level and then it maintains a steady state, and that is called partial regulators. We have the examples shrew and squirrel, the two mammals are examples for partial regulators. Okay, we can go through that one. That's partial regulators are not there in the book. You go through the notes here. The next one, migrate. So normally organisms tend to move away from stressful habitats or stressful environments to a new habitable area which is hospitable to them, and return back to their original environment after the stressful conditions have been completed. Okay, for example, so we have a normal where we have the bird sanctuaries available in Tamil Nadu. So every year birds from Siberia are migrating towards what we have had in the Tamil Nadu to overcome extreme, what is called the winter temperatures or extreme winters. And that is one of the adaptations or one of the actually methods, response by an organism to the environmental conditions or abiotic conditions, the migration process. Example, migration of birds from Siberia to Vedandam in Tamil Nadu. Okay, that's about what we get the migration, or also let's migrate the character, that is response to abiotic conditions. The last one we have to know about suspend. Organisms are suspending their activity without doing any activity during their lifetime, taking a rest if the conditions are not favorable. To overcome the extreme conditions, they are doing what's called suspended activity, suspended development, etc. We'll see now. Now the last response to abiotic factors, suspend. In certain conditions, if the organisms are unable to migrate from that place, it may avoid stress by becoming inactive. So inactiveness occurs if they are unable to move from this place. So normally animals tend to migrate from that place if there is any extreme conditions. In certain conditions, some organisms cannot able to move from that place. In such conditions, they are attaining what is called inactivity. So here there are three examples of inactivity. Number one, hibernation, otherwise called winter sleep. So it is seen in the case of bears which go into hibernation during winter. So suspended activity during winter is called hibernation, otherwise called winter sleep. Likewise, certain organisms undergo summer sleep. So that is called estivation. For example, the snails and some fishes go into estivation. What for? To avoid summer-related problems. Summer-related problems like heat and then what is called desiccation, loss of water, loss of humidity, etc. So like heat and then desiccation, if it is available during summer, the conditions are not favorable. Under these conditions, they become inactive. That is called summer sleep or estivation. Example, snails and then fishes. Another condition what is observed in the case of some lower animals. some lower animals. So an example of zooplanktons. Zooplanktons, that is a floating organism which undergone a suspended activity. So some lower animals suspend a certain phase of their life cycle, a particular part of the life cycle being suspended, stopped or inactive, which is called as diapause. Example, zooplankton, suspended activity, only a part of their life cycle, and that condition is called diapause condition, and we have the zooplanktons. So that's about what we get the response to abiotic factors. Thank you. With that, I concluded about the responses to environmental conditions or abiotic factors. We have to go for the adaptations, different types of adaptations in the next class. Okay.